The first thing I remember was her voice. Low, careful, steady, the kind that makes you listen without meaning to. "Take a deep breath," she said, and I did. Not because she told me to, but because I wanted to hear what she'd sound like next. Her hand rested against my chest, just below my collarbone, warm through the thin cotton of the hospital gown. For a moment, she didn't move. The air between us changed, heavier somehow. I could feel her pulse through her palm, or maybe it was mine. She blinked once, as if catching herself, then drew her hand back slightly but not away. "Good," she murmured. Eyes scanning the monitor, though nothing about her expression said she was looking at numbers. Her name tag read Elena, printed in fading blue. She looked mid-40s maybe, though age felt like the wrong measure. There was something practiced in her calm, but her eyes, green-gray, tired at the edges, carried a softness I didn't expect. I tried not to stare, failed completely. She caught me. "Still with me?" "Yeah," I said a little too fast. Her smile was small, almost apologetic, but it lingered longer than it should have. The room was too quiet, just the steady click of rain on the window, the faint hum of the fluorescent light above us. Every sound felt sharper in the silence. She checked my pulse again, her fingers light, professional, mostly. "Your heart's racing. Could be the coffee. You didn't have any." I laughed, then stopped because she hadn't. Something in her expression softened again, just a flicker. Then she turned away to write something on the clipboard. I watched the way she held her pen, tight, controlled. Everything about her was measured, deliberate, the kind of person who'd spent years being careful. When she looked back, her tone shifted, lighter, almost teasing. "You don't like doctors, do you?" "I don't like feeling useless," I said before I could stop myself. She tilted her head, considering that. Then, quietly, "You're not useless." It was nothing, a passing reassurance, probably something she said to people all day. But it landed differently. Maybe it was the way she said it, or maybe it was how she didn't look away afterward. The air between us thickened again. I caught the faint scent of her, soap, maybe citrus, something clean but human. Her hand brushed mine as she reached for the stethoscope, and I swear neither of us moved fast enough to call it an accident. "Deep breath," she said again, voice lower now. This time I couldn't. My chest rose halfway before stopping on its own, caught somewhere between her nearness and the pulse drumming against my ribs. Her fingers pressed lightly against my back. "Relax." I nodded, though the word meant nothing in that moment. The silence stretched, too long to be normal. I could feel her breath against my neck, slow and steady. She was close enough that I saw the faint freckle just below her jawline, the way her lips parted slightly when she focused. When she finally stepped back, I exhaled, shaky, like I'd been underwater. Her eyes lingered on me a beat too long. "You're fine," she said softly. "I don't feel fine," I said, trying to make it sound like a joke. Her lips curved, not quite a smile. "Maybe that's good." Before I could ask what she meant, the door handle turned. She looked toward it, then back at me, the first real flash of something unguarded. And in that tiny, suspended second before the door opened, I realized her hands still hadn't moved away, and I didn't see her again for 3 days. Long enough for the memory of her hand on my chest to blur into something I might have imagined. Then she walked into the small rehab room where I was struggling with the resistance bands, and the air shifted again. Same way it had before, quiet but charged. "You're back early," she said, scanning the clipboard. "Most people don't volunteer for extra sessions. Most people don't have a nurse like you." The words slipped out before I could pull them back. She looked up slowly, not smiling, not angry either, just watching. "That's a dangerous thing to say here," she said. Her tone was even, but her eyes weren't. We fell into a rhythm after that, short sessions, small talk that kept circling the edges of something neither of us named. She'd ask about the accident that brought me in. I'd ask about the photo on her desk, a blurry shot of a coastline, no people. "It's Oregon," she said once. "I used to go there with my ex." "You don't go anymore?" She hesitated. "No. Some places close themselves off when you leave." I didn't ask more. but I started noticing how her ring finger was bare yet faintly indented, as if the band had only recently come off. Later, when she adjusted the sling on my shoulder, her breath brushed the side of my neck. I felt every nerve in my arm wake up, not from the pain, but from her nearness. She didn't move away right away. Her hand hovered there, soft, uncertain. "You're tense," she said. "I'm trying not to be." Her voice went lower. "Don't try so hard." Afterward, I sat in my car and watched her through the glass doors as she spoke with another nurse. She laughed at something, but her eyes looked elsewhere, out the window toward nothing. That night I couldn't sleep. Every detail replayed. Her hand steadying my arm, the small pause before she spoke, the line between professional and something else bending tighter each time. The next day, I stayed late under the excuse of waiting for new bandages. The clinic was quiet, half-lit. She was finishing notes at the counter. "You should go home," she said without looking up. "You too." "I live alone," she said, not defensive, just factual. The admission hung there. I took a step closer without meaning to. She turned, and for once didn't step back. "You remind me of someone," she said quietly. "Good or bad?" Her eyes softened. "Too young." Her hand brushed my shoulder. A small, searching touch. Could have been nothing, except it wasn't. She left it there a beat too long, then pulled back. I caught her wrist gently only for a second. Her skin was warm, pulse quick. "Elena," she looked at me, eyes flicking between my hand and my face. "This isn't." She stopped herself. The silence after that felt heavier than any word could carry. Her hand slipped free, but not far. Neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. The air between us already said too much. Rain again. Always rain when I stayed late. The clinic was closing, most of the lights dimmed, the hall echoing with the soft squeak of her shoes. Elena was finishing paperwork, hair pulled back, glasses sliding down her nose. "Shouldn't you be gone by now?" she asked without looking up. "I forgot my jacket. It's summer. Still cold," I said, though I wasn't shivering. She gave a quiet, amused breath, the kind that almost turned into a laugh. "You're not very good at lying." "Neither are you." That made her glance up and stay looking. The rain tapped against the window, steady and slow. I stood closer than I should have, the air thick with unsaid things. She closed the file, laid her pen down, and leaned back in the chair. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. "Do you want me to go?" Her eyes flicked to the door, then back to me. "That's not the same question." I took a step closer. Her breathing shifted deeper, controlled. She tried to change the subject. "Your shoulder looks better. It still hurts." "Where?" "Here." I touched just below the collarbone. She hesitated, then rose and crossed to me. Her fingers brushed my shirt, testing, searching for the muscle beneath. The same place she'd touched the first day. "Deep breath," she said. The words came out quieter this time, almost as if she regretted them the moment they left her mouth. I did. Her hand stayed. The door at the end of the hall opened suddenly, voices, footsteps. She froze. I stepped back, too quickly, hitting the table behind me. A younger nurse peeked in. "Elena, Dr. Pierce is looking for." "Oh, sorry." Her eyes darted between us. "Reading too much." Elena straightened her blouse, nodding. "Tell him I'll be right there." The door closed again. The silence that followed was louder than before. Her voice, when it came, was low. "You can't be here when the others are. You think they'd care? They'd talk." "So?" She gave a small, bitter smile. "You'll understand when you're older." I should have walked away then. But she looked tired, not in the way people get from work, but in the way people get from holding back too much for too long. "Elena," I said. She looked up. I reached for the file she was holding just to have something to do, but my fingers brushed hers instead. She didn't move. Our hands stayed there, still joined only by a page we both forgot existed. She drew a breath, sharp but quiet. "This is wrong," she whispered. "I know." She didn't pull her hand away. Instead, She looked at me, eyes searching, not for permission but for reason. Neither of us found any. The sound of rain filled the room again. It was the only thing moving. Her lips parted, but the words never came. And in that moment, that half-inch of space between our mouths, that pause too heavy to break, everything we weren't supposed to feel pressed closer, silent, certain, inevitable. The rain finally stopped, but the air still smelled like it, damp, metallic, charged. It was late again. I told myself I was dropping off the therapy reports. Truth was, I wanted to see her one more time. Elena was in the supply room, organizing gauze and bottles she'd already sorted twice. When she saw me in the doorway, she didn't speak. Just stood there, back to the shelf, one hand still holding a roll of bandage she'd forgotten to put down. "You shouldn't keep finding reasons to be here," she said. "Then stop giving me reasons to." Her eyes closed briefly, the smallest exhale. "You're young. You'll move on. You keep saying that like you want me to believe it." That made her look up. Really look. Her hair was loose tonight, a few strands catching the light. "You don't know what you're asking for," she said quietly. "Then tell me." For a moment, she did nothing, just studied my face as if trying to memorize it. Then she stepped forward, close enough that I could see the faint tremor in her hand as she pushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "I've already made too many mistakes," she said. "Ones I can't take back. Maybe this isn't one." Her laugh was almost soundless. "You think it's that simple?" I took a breath. "No. That's why it feels real." Her jaw tightened. The bandage in her hand slipped, unrolling slowly to the floor. She didn't bend to pick it up. I reached for it, or maybe for her, and our hands met halfway. This time she didn't pull back. The air felt different now, like something fragile giving way. I could smell her skin, faintly floral, warm from the heat of the room. She whispered, "You shouldn't look at me like that." "How should I? Like I'm something you can have." Her voice cracked just enough on that last word to break whatever distance we had left. I stepped closer, careful, deliberate. My fingers brushed her sleeve first. Safe, polite. Then the curve of her shoulder, the soft line of her neck. She didn't move, didn't speak, but her breathing betrayed her. "You're making this harder," she said, barely a whisper. "I think you already decided that." Her eyes flicked to my mouth, then back. The silence around us grew dense, unbearable. "You think this ends well?" she said, half pleading, half daring. "I think it has to start first." She looked away, but I caught her chin gently, turned her face back toward me. Her eyes shone. Not tears, just a brightness that felt close to breaking. For a heartbeat, everything stilled. Then footsteps, a voice calling her name from the hallway. She flinched, breath catching. I didn't move. "Elena," I said softly. She met my eyes again, something fierce and frightened crossing her face. "If you say anything else right now," she whispered, "I won't be able to stop." The door handle turned, and we both froze, inches apart, the words still burning between us. The next day, she wasn't there. Her name wasn't on the schedule. Her locker empty except for a folded paper taped inside. A transfer notice. "Temporary reassignment," the head nurse said. "Administrative reasons." Administrative reasons. That's what people say when they mean something happened, but they're not allowed to talk about it. I spent that whole afternoon replaying the night before, her breath against my jaw, the sound of her saying, "If you say anything else right now." I hadn't said a word, and somehow that silence had cost me everything. By closing, I couldn't take it anymore. I drove to the old building across town, the one where she used to do intake work before the clinic opened. The windows were dark except for one faint light upstairs. She was there, sitting behind a desk piled with folders, hair pulled back tight again, like she was trying to hold herself together by force. When she saw me in the doorway, she didn't look surprised, just tired. "You shouldn't have come," she said. "I know. That's becoming a theme." Her hand went to her temple, a small gesture of defeat. "They heard something. The other nurse, the one from last night. She said she saw us. Said it looked inappropriate." The word hit harder than it should have. I told them it was nothing, she went on, voice shaking slightly. But they're reviewing everything. My record. My work. 20 years of being careful. Gone because I forgot where my hands were. She gave a small, broken laugh that didn't sound like laughter at all.
Elena, no.
Don't. You don't understand what this costs me. I stepped closer anyway. Then explain it to me. Her eyes lifted, glassy under the fluorescent light. You're too young to carry someone else's consequences. The space between us closed again, the same magnetic pull neither of us could ignore. She turned away, but I caught the edge of her sleeve. Not enough to stop her, just enough to feel the tremor running through her arm. I didn't lie to them, she said quietly, but I lied to myself. How? She hesitated. I told myself you were just a patient. The room went still. I moved closer until we were nearly touching, the faint heat of her body radiating between us. She didn't step back this time. Her next breath came shallow. If they find out you came here, I don't care.
Ido.
She reached up, brushing a stray curl off my forehead, her fingers lingering a second too long. You think this is bravery, she whispered. But it's not. It's how people ruin each other. Then ruin me, I said. Her hand trembled against my cheek, and for a second, I thought she might actually kiss me. Instead, she drew back, eyes wet, jaw tight. You don't know what I've already done, she said. The words hung there. Confession, warning, plea. Before she walked past me, brushing my shoulder as she left. And just like that, everything that felt dangerous before suddenly felt inevitable. She called me 2 nights later. No words in the voicemail, just silence, the kind that says everything. When I got to her apartment, the hallway was dim, a single bulb flickering near the door. I almost turned back. Almost. Then I heard the faint sound of her breathing on the other side. When she opened the door, she looked nothing like the woman from the clinic. Barefoot, hair loose, eyes bare. You shouldn't have come, she whispered. You called me. I know. She stepped aside, and I walked in. The room was warm, lights low. A mug of untouched tea sat on the counter, steam long gone. The silence between us pulsed like a heartbeat. I lost my job, she said finally. They made it sound temporary, but it isn't. I swallowed hard. Because of me? Because of us. She said it like a confession, not a blame. Her hands were trembling. She tried to hide it by crossing her arms. But I saw. I can't stop thinking about that night, I said quietly. Every time I close my eyes. Don't. I mean it. Her breath caught. She turned, pacing a step, then stopped right in front of me. You think this is a love story? She said. It's not. It's timing. It's need. It's loneliness. Maybe, I said. But it's real. Her eyes softened, the fight slipping for just a second. You have your whole life ahead of you, she murmured. Then let me choose how I start it. I reached for her hand. She didn't move, didn't look away. Our fingers brushed, then laced, slowly, like both of us were testing how far it could go before breaking. Her body was still, but her pulse was wild. I could feel it against my thumb. You don't understand, she whispered. I've spent years keeping things tidy, safe, predictable. And then you walked in and... She stopped herself, breath catching halfway. And? I asked. Her eyes met mine, glassy but steady. You reminded me what wanting feels like. I stepped closer, close enough that I could feel her breath against my chin. She didn't back away. Elena? I said, voice low, almost afraid of itself. If you say my name like that again. She began, but the rest faded. Her hand found my face, tentative, almost trembling. The distance between us shrank until it was nothing but breath, heat, silence. The choice hung there. Not words, not logic, just the fragile edge of surrender. Her forehead rested against mine. If we do this, she said, voice barely there. There's no pretending after. I don't want to pretend. She closed her eyes. One exhale, long, quiet, final. Then she leaned in, so close our lips brushed but didn't meet. The moment stretched, aching, suspended, until she whispered, "Then don't stop me." And I didn't. When she finally pulled back, her voice was steadier. "Now you know." And I did. Not just what she felt, but what it cost her to feel it. Morning light made everything look softer, as if the night had been only a dream. Elena sat by the window, one knee pulled close to her chest, wearing the same oversized sweater she'd thrown on after everything fell quiet. She didn't look at me right away. The silence wasn't tense anymore. It was the kind that settles after something honest has finally happened. "You should have left before sunrise," she said gently. "I didn't want to." She smiled faintly, eyes still on the street below. "You never do what you're supposed to." I shrugged. "Neither do you." That made her turn, finally. There was no makeup, no mask. Just her. The woman who'd spent half her life being careful, and the one who, for a few hours, forgot how. "They offered me a position out of town," she said after a moment. "Different hospital. Clean slate. Are you going to take it?" I was. She paused, then looked at me. "Until you knocked on my door." The words hit quietly but deep. I crossed the room and sat beside her, close enough that our shoulders brushed. Outside, a bus splashed through a puddle, the world going on like none of it mattered. But to me, everything had already changed. She reached for my hand without looking, fingers finding mine with the same hesitant certainty as before. "You'll regret this," she said. "Maybe. And you'll leave eventually." "Maybe." She laughed softly, leaning her head against my shoulder. "At least you're honest." For a long while we said nothing. Her thumb traced small, absent circles on my palm. I could feel her breathing even out, slow, steady. "I spent years waiting for things to make sense," she said. "For the timing to be right, for the fear to disappear. It never did. Maybe that's the point." I turned to her. "Maybe it's not supposed to be easy." Her eyes lifted to mine, tired but warm. "You're too young to sound like that." I smiled. "You make me older." She shook her head, amused, but the corners of her mouth softened. Then she reached up and brushed my hair back. That same small, steady gesture that had started everything. "Come here," she whispered. I did. Her forehead rested against mine, the world narrowing to breath and warmth and the soft hum of morning. No drama left, no pretending to resist. Just quiet understanding, two people who'd both been seen, finally, for exactly who they were. Hours later, when she walked me to the door, she didn't say goodbye. She just touched my wrist, light and lingering. "Don't vanish," she said. "I won't." And when the door closed, I knew she believed me. Maybe not forever, but for now. And for both of us, now was enough. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?